Hey everyone, welcome in to another episode of the Rochford Files with your host that's kind of between the coast. Coming to you live from the Mile Highland City, it's Andrew Rochford. Coming to you live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And for y'all out there, please like the stream on YouTube, consider subscribing, share the link to new and familiar places. And if you're on Twitch, uh, please click the follow button. As recently, this channel was taken down for about 10 hours last Thursday, so it's important to be subscribed to your favorite content creators on multiple platforms. And with that being said, we've got a returning guest to the show. Please welcome in Nyree Holmes.
Hey Andrew, honestly, it's great to be back. Anytime I get a chance to, I always tune in. I love to watch the show, so I'm honored to be able to return. So thanks again.
Yes, I'm glad that you agreed to come back. And there's a couple of things that have changed since that last appearance.
Definitely, I am now essentially bald. I was just telling Andrew pre-show, I'm essentially bald, and back from Atlanta all the way back to the West Coast, back to NorCal. So big life adjustments if you ask me, but I'm moving forward and feeling good.
So, how does it feel to adjust to this time when it comes to being on a stream like this now?
The streams, sports, world events, everything is about 10 times better if you ask me. Like I couldn't imagine being a kid and having a bedtime and growing up in the East Coast. That wouldn't have worked out.
Hey, good luck. That I guess I can't stay up for this game tonight. They play at 10:30.
Exactly. No way.
So let's. Hey, Mariella, nice to see you're here tonight on the stream. But I think it's a good time to say any. Do you think anything else has changed? Like any political opinions changed for you over the past few months?
It's crazy because I was just thinking earlier today. This is just a random one. Well, random but kind of like essential right to my life. But I was just earlier thinking that I kind of always tended towards this kind of Afro pessimist kind of political thought, and I think I've gone tenfold within just 6 months. And so it's interesting the things that I'm thinking politically, and about the state honestly of Black people was really just so important to me. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of change pretty quick if you ask me.
Yeah, it's harder and harder to be optimistic about things just in the United States. But now, from a world point of view, it's getting even harder to even be more pessimistic about things, such as Europe, for example, and the cold winter hell that they're about to go through. But uh, let's start off with this Bill Burr clip on that he talked about capitalism in a recent podcast of his. Hey, WCSN, what's up, man?
You're really sort of looking the other way with what capitalism has done to other countries. All the sweatshop labor, all the wars we've fought over air quote freedom, where most of it is about natural resources. All of these fucking countries where we've gone in and stuck in heads of the government that are going to do what we want to do so we can fucking take advantage of them. Like, I mean, to sit there and look at capitalism like it's, you know, I don't know, dude. Right, I took off my Birkenstocks. I'm going to read the rest of this here. Okay, socialism all starts the same way. Create a boogeyman like corporations, the rich, or a race. Oh, yeah, we've never done that in this country. We've never created a boogeyman. There's never, I mean, Jesus Christ, buddy. Blame them for all your problems. Yeah, we never did that. The leaders then promised to fix all the problems. Oh, boy. Slowly the government starts to control every aspect of your life. Why does this sound so familiar? Promise that aren't they like recording all our phone conversations now? We're slowly on our way to getting microchipped. Promise that everybody will have the same equity and outcome. This creates mediocrity, loss of the middle class. Loss of the middle class. Where have I seen that before? Of innovation, punish. You know, corporations are buying houses now. They're just buying them up so they can fucking Airbnb. Like, literally, the American dream, buying a house. They're going to take that away in this country. That reduces the tax money coming out into the government. Buddy, I can't fucking read all of this horse shit. This is everything that we're doing too. Capitalism. Okay, I'll get to the end here. Capitalism. No, you know what? Let's just read all of this because it's fucking hilarious that he's acting like none of this is happening in this country. And you know what's funny about people? You don't like it, get the fuck out of here. This is my favorite thing ever. Yeah, you can look at your sports team and be like, what the fuck is this coach doing? And then nobody goes like, you don't fucking do it with somebody else. No, I'm criticizing it because I love it and I want it to win.
Hey, so what was your thoughts coming off of that, Nyree?
Just off first run, I just kind of think about like how obvious the point that he's making is, but also how like preposterous the I don't even know like what he's referencing, like who said that, but just the pervasiveness of how like kind of evil and just kind of cynical it is. But the thing is that kind of gets me is that like a lot of people, like even liberal, some left people, believe this stuff kind of like wholeheartedly, you know, like it's just like that word socialism is just, you know, some crazy evil thing. So it's you know, it's funny to laugh at, but it's like, dang, it's really like that preposterous kind of over the top, ridiculous portrayal of capitalism as good is believed, you know?
Yeah, and this has been a big theme of the United States, especially when it comes to openly socialist countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. They're projecting capitalism onto the problems that they try to blame socialism for, and that's a big theme right there. Hey, Kelly and Uncle Warren, what's up? And I think there's a bit more to this.
Punish the rich, which eventually leads to them leaving the country. Oh, yeah, that hasn't happened. Yeah, the rich haven't, like, you know, their money leaves the country and then comes back in the form of an interest-free loan that is then forgiven. Jesus, buddy, come on. The richest people usually employ the most of the population. Oh, boy. Disarm the citizens so that they cannot revolt.
So that part right there makes me think of the good old Michael Parenti clip where he's looking pretty green, and he talks about how all the countries are rich, even the so-called countries that we associate with being poor, but it's because of the people ruling those countries are the ones enriching themselves while the people stay down and poor.
Yeah. It's like, especially when you see like the natural, like just let's start like minerals of some of these countries. It's like how it makes no sense that you'd be poor if you have all of the thing you need to make a smartphone, you know? But
then to add to that point, the reason why Venezuela's been getting so under the attack of the United States is because of the fact that they don't roll over and give the United States what they want, especially when it comes to the oil.
That's what it's going to be every single time. And then they, of course, you got every single embargo they're going to levy, every single trade agreement they're going to cancel with other nations, everything they're going to do to impose economic hardship, social hardship, and then just so that they can say socialism. It's tried and true, so they keep doing it.
Control the media, like promoting the government. Control the media. There's two guys that own the media: Ted Turner and fucking that other guy there, the guy from Fox News. That's why we're Hatfields and McCoys right now. Disarm the citizens so they cannot revolt. Control the media, like promoting the government agenda with propaganda, then censorship of all their other ideas. Yeah, creating areas where you can only protest, which are down and around the corner, away from.
And got to point out these points that the way that this corporate media has liberals supporting Zelensky in Ukraine, and he's doing very many of the same things that are being done in the United States, like shutting down opposition parties, preventing workers from being able to organize right now. Among the other things that so-called hypocrisy of what they're trying to tell us what democracy is.
And the thing is that I forgot, was it Elizabeth Warren? But I just know that liberals at a point were supporting the idea of basically a truth and means committee that was basically going to be over Twitter and over all of the social media about what you can post. And it's like, we already have stuff like that for violence, and it said obviously we can do better, but I'm not putting my control over my voice in Elizabeth Warren's hands or any other of her moderate, I'll say to be nice, constituents. So
it was that disinformation.
It was something exactly like that. And I just couldn't believe.
Oh yeah, I already covered that quite a bit over the past few months. Don't need to bring up the whole Scary Poppins TikTok again.
From the fucking media. Yeah, okay. Eventually, all rights are taken away. Dissenters, journalists, and politicians, oppositions are jailed or executed. Eventually, the leaders will become exactly what they originally campaigned against. Jesus Christ, buddy. I've forgotten what your... He goes, there's much more to it on the economic level, but as a fellow moron, it's too complicated for me to understand. All right. I am also a fellow moron, but dude, all of that shit has happened. If you look at all the rights and everything that you have lost in the last fucking 20 years, I don't even begin in creating a boogeyman and racism, genocide, all of that shit. We've done all of that. We've done all of that. When I was a kid, there was rules on media ownership. No one person could own any seven. It was rules of seven. No one person can own 7 radio stations, newspapers, TV stations, blah, 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 in one market, because they knew if you owned all of that, if you control the media, you control thought. And yet they've let Ted Turner and that fucking, I want to say Ralph's neighbor, Rupert Murdoch, do exactly that. And present CNN and Fox News have the fucking balls to present the people that are on TV as journalists, and then also acting as though you're watching news. You're not. You're watching propaganda.
So, what do you think of the state of where the propaganda is currently at?
I used to be such a high consumer of CNN, MSNBC, and even like a lot of independent stuff that I just wouldn't touch today, right? So I know that even from then to now, I can only imagine that it's increased tenfold. And the part that he really kind of hit on is that it really just controls thought, and people don't consider that they're being told something that they're being presented as fact whenever it's just complete fiction half the time. And more often than not, they're putting their strong lean towards their corporate ties, their political ties, and their money, really, and they're not really kind of concerned about the news or facts or all that. So it's dire for sure.
Yeah, and also the fact that I went to college for journalism, and I know one of the things that one of the big themes that a lot of these classes reinforce is that you need, in order to be a more successful journalist, now you got to be part of the big corporate machine. That if you're like a freelance or independent journalist, you're not going to be as successful in that. And another big thing that you notice is that no, through college is the fact that it's a system that tries to get you to stay in line with neoliberal politics. And look at the discourse in the for a couple examples of things. I noticed when like the Orlando nightclub shooting happened in the Ferguson, there was no discourse in my classes about defund the police or police abolition. Then the whole issue of Julian Assange, I'd never even heard about it when I was in college.
As a journalism major, that's wild. Yeah. I'm not, to make a long story short, I won't tell you my whole like journalism background, but I minored in broadcast journalism going into college because I always thought I was going to be, that's what I was going to do, right? And I noticed everything you just said, and I was okay. Gonna go ahead and get that out and replace it with African American studies, and I think it worked out.
Except the main difference was I got too deep into like trying to get my bachelor's in like broadcasting that now I'm to the point where I can't even really think of what to do next, because there was a time I used to think it could be political science, but now I'm to the point I was like, if I had gone down that political science route at the wrong point in life, I could have been sounding like one of these dumb sock dims right now.
Yeah. It's wild when you think about it that way. I always think about that too. It's like one little turn and you never know.
Yeah, I think it's let's shift gears a bit and start off by showing the video of Cori Bush revealing her new book, the big book deal and this is someone who is new to Congress, but a little over a year and a half in.
Come on. Okay. You good? Yeah. Okay, y'all open with me. She will cry. No.
Wow.
Look at that. Oh my
God. First off, this is someone who went into Congress as an actual activist, by the way. And this should be one of the biggest signs of how, if they could change someone who used to be a genuine activist this quickly, what argument do the people who want to reform the Democratic Party have left?
You know what's funny is I feel like, just thinking historically, like she probably definitely was around activists who, and I mean she probably herself, really meant what she was doing, but I just feel like the system pulls out specific people that they know they can, so like I always wonder if they're ever really changed or not, because I feel like everyone kind of worth something is either in prison or they got shot or they went to Cuba, or you know what I mean. So I always struggle with activists in politics. I can't lie.
And we already know that some of these politicians, they get presented as a false character in their campaign, such as AOC, for example, who really wasn't this working class bartender that she was made out to be when she was someone who went to Boston University and studied in foreign relations. So she actually was someone who wasn't vetted well enough by the Justice Democrats, even though that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things when you've even got the system celebritizing Cory Bush this quickly.
So I was gonna say it reminded me of this whole situation. Reminded me of the Netflix documentary that came out on AOC's run, and Cory Bush was in it, and I forgot some other people were in it too.
I believe Paula Jean Swearengin.
I was about to say the lady out of West Virginia, but yes, exactly. That was like I watched that when I watched it, I was just at the crest of just not really feeling AOC anymore, and ever since then I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's a real thing that they like really filmed and lied a bunch in it, and it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Let's continue.
All right. All right. The forerunner, Cory Bush. A story of pain and perseverance in America. Today is the day. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. It's like and I'm reading it's like a real book, but it is. It's like a real book. It's a real book. That's it. Said Cory Bush is a Renaissance woman, perfect song. Every woman. It's a
Okay, gotta put a stop to that. As James Fauntleroy of Revolutionary Blackout Network quote tweeted to this, how does Cory Bush's new book deal help you and your family?
I saw that, and yeah, it was ringing in my head the whole time watching it too, because I never clicked on the video because I knew it was going to be just so horrible, and so that's it's great to see that it really was as bad as I thought. Exactly, the cringe.
And that's just another example of the things that they placate the so-called people who talked about going in and flipping tables and challenging the Democratic establishment and causing a ruckus. Instead, what they did was got their magazine shoots, their Netflix specials, the access to the Met Gala, among many of the things that they've been given to elevate their status in this branding that will lead people into having the false hope that it just takes electing more of them.
And like that part and the part of like, oh yeah, it could be you too. And it's like, yeah, if you sell out your entire life, is it worth it? Ugh.
And the thing with the squad, as we've noticed, is if you can't tell by now, they all got their little pet issue that they get to seem principled on. Like Cory Bush gets to maintain the whole defund the police. Rashida Tlaib, she gets to be the vocal pro-Palestine voice. Then AOC really doesn't have a strong foreign policy stance that is actually good.
A stance on, honestly, I don't know of a stance I've heard from AOC in the past year that I'm with. So on anything really, which is tragic. Because at one point she was just but nah.
Now we're about to shift over to Jamal Bowman. I thought he was also another recent Squad L, especially since what Jamal Bowman's more known for is putting his voice into action more for like random celebrity news instead of like actual stuff that he talked about in his progressive campaign. But this was him getting confronted last week.
Do more on climate, we can do more on lowering prescription drug costs, we could do more on gun control, we could do more with regards to the black agenda. We can do more.
So I think the only thing about the black agenda that he's really led was that whole like hip hop recognition bill. Do you remember that?
Slightly, I do slightly remember it. That's yeah.
Congressman, you're a hypocrite because you are funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They are wearing the Ukrainian, they are wearing the black sun symbol. The same symbol that the Buffalo shooter used. The same symbol that the person who almost killed the vice president in Argentina used.
Thank
You
you
say
so
you want
much.
to advance the black cause, but you are funding the same people who kill in the name of white supremacy.
This is the foundation. This is the foundation of our democracy, freedom of speech. Stick around and I'll have a conversation with you right after the end. But let me get to the conclusion. Stick around. I promise. I got you. The foundation of our democracy is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. So we appreciate that and we'll talk to you.
The first thing I noticed right there is Jamal Bowman was not ready for that smoke.
I really doubt he talked to him at the end. That's the part that's like bothering me. I'm like, I really doubt it.
You're about to find out soon what happened, but this is, for those of you who don't know, every progressive in Congress has voted in favor of funding those Nazis in Ukraine.
It's pretty simple, you know. Like that's what I was thinking when the guy was yelling. I'm like, it's just incredibly simple. I don't want to hear anything about the black agenda. If there are Nazis running around and they happen to be having missiles from you, and my thing is like the least you could do is vote against, speak against. That's the least you could do, but they're not going to. That requires principles, and also, I mean, I want to say understanding of the issues, but I bet they understand. They just don't care.
Yeah, over these past several months of the whole proxy war with Ukraine and Russia, we've noticed like two of the groups who are supposed to be the most anti-Nazi, which are black people and Jews, have also had moments when they've shown support for the Azov battalion.
You know what's so funny? I don't know if you remember, there was a guy who was like the first kind of guy on the ground in Ukraine. He was a black guy.
That was Malcolm Nance.
Okay, that guy was like close friends with the professor I had at the time. and like I would get like weekly reports on how like he's doing, and like how I'm like, yeah, I don't care about him. Why are you telling me that? And so like there's like this weird, it's definitely generational. Like there's like, you know, older group was like, oh yeah, you know, we fight against Russia. there's a middle group that's usually like just going along with whatever the Democrats are doing, you know. And then there's some of us out there who are just like, you guys, what are you doing? You know, what's going on here? So yeah, it's unfortunate that all the prominent kind of voices are all going to lean one way, but you know, that's the way of money, if you ask me.
Oh, it's just crazy learning about how that professor of yours has that type of close connection to Malcolm Nance.
Yeah, it was wild. I like weekly, and I'm like, he's in the middle of a war. Why am I getting updates about this man? I don't care about him. But it was interesting just to kind of hear the perspective, because that professor is actually considers himself, you know, like a Pan-Africanist, and so it was interesting to hear Pan-Africanist basically jockey for a war in Ukraine. It was interesting. So it was a learning experience.
So let's continue on here. There, that's better. Then, ironically, the other congressman who was present, Hakeem Jeffries, also knows about the Nazis in Ukraine because he wrote a letter about it to Congress, and dated back on December 17th of 2013. Update. The letter that Hakeem Jeffries wrote has been taken down from the announcement page. I need help reviving it. And then this is the part where you wondered about the conversation afterwards. And Jose Vega said, yes, he did. On the issue of Ukraine, he said, first of all, you're not my constituent. But even if you were, you don't have to yell about it. You could have pulled me to the side and we could have talked. When I asked him what we're going to do about this Nazi issue, he pretty much said that we're going to do what we're going to continue to do. So, isn't one of the most annoying lines that you hear as a shield for defensive criticism, the whole, especially at a federal level, that you're not in their district?
I mean, it's basically like if you're not on my street when I'm jogging, I don't care about you. Yeah, okay. You're still voting on my behalf, and like honestly, how can you tell me where I live? I would tell them right then. I'd be like, no, I'm definitely in your district, even though I'm across the country. Because that's just a crazy excuse to use against someone.
Yes, because everyone's vote has a potential to negatively affect someone else. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi or these progressives that we're upset with because they're not following through on shit right now.
By the way, I'm going to count that interaction as not talking to him afterwards because I knew it. I was like, there's no way there's going to be anything worth value. But yeah, this is the squad we have, right? It's just like it feels like 16 years of the Kings playoff drought. It's like this is our squad. we gotta just roll what we got because apparently it's not getting better. Apparently.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then who's going to be the next head coach? It's going to change in like a year or two.
You think so? I mean. Are we moving AOC up all the way to speaker? Is that what's going to happen at this point? Because I don't even who knows with these people. I wouldn't be surprised. And then we just have a whole big old shift. Like if that happens, it would just be a whole big shift to the right. Everyone would just let's move, and then it would move all of their campaigns, guaranteed.
I often say, as a criticism of the whole reforming the Democratic Party, is the fact that this is like a game of whack-a-mole. When you think that you've knocked him, the previous mole's dead, a few more new ones are going to come up. It's ones that you used to think were on your side.
I mean, Democrats can't even really elect Democrats at this point, so I don't know what having faith in that party is going to do for quite literally anyone.
Yeah, I think now it's time to go on to talk a bit about Kanye West. So on Monday, he made that big appearance in the White Lives Matter shirt. So let's put the photo of that up first, and we'll go through a bit of the discourse and the process. So, Nyree, what were your thoughts when you first saw Kanye West come out to the shirt?
All right, my legitimate thoughts. I was pretty much thinking, well, that's Kanye. I don't care. Like that was my first reaction. I was just like, Yeah, Kanye, Candace Owens, makes sense. White Lives Matter. All right, okay, move on with my day. But I didn't really like see much of the backlash, or if there was any. I mean, I'm sure there was some people, Yeah, it's obviously a stupid shirt, But I don't know what's up with Kanye at this point. Which is a crazy thing for even me to say because that's been like the theme of Kanye, right, for at least like 15 years. I don't know what's up with Kanye. But I was a fan for a while and probably still like I could say I still like his music, but yeah, he's Candace Owens. Just for one, are they holding hands? I didn't even notice that. If that's happening, now I'm really concerned. And who knows what's even going through either of their heads at any time.
But before I go into that part, I'm not sure if this was the point where you fell off Kanye, but I know for me it was after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
So you know what's super funny is that I became a fan after that.
Weird.
So everything after that I'm actually a fan of, but there's some earlier stuff I'm also a fan of, but I'm not like a big early Kanye. I think like 808's probably my first album where I was like, oh yeah, the Kanye is tight. And so since then I've definitely been a Kanye fan.
But the crazy part about even Candace Owens is there used to be a time where Candace was also sounded more liberal. And they were both like pretty solidly in that liberal camp.
Definitely. I'm not surprised. I mean, grifters are going to grift. It's super easy if you have like this much intelligence to grift as a black person in the Republican Party. I love Jesus. White lives matter. All right, I'm in. And so someone's gonna clip that and watch. Now I'm gonna be a superstar. So, I'm not surprised at all that she took that nice little easy switch.
Yeah, and that's been one that's been ongoing for her for a long time. And then you look at Kanye West's political instincts, and they're absolutely all over the place. You can't just pinpoint it as completely as someone who's like completely shifted right, because once in a while there's something that sounds good from him.
And that's kind of why my reaction was like, all right, it's Kanye, it's whatever. Like, it's like he's batting like 1 for 16, but that one every now and again can mean something. So yeah, it's whatever. I mostly ignore him. If he ever puts out good music again, can't lie, I'm probably tuning in.
So I think this Jamel Hill tweet had a good amount of the discourse following this that we'll dive into. So let's start with her tweet. So many folks are trying to excuse Kanye wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt as just a troll move or marketing. Maybe it is, but it's a dangerously dumb message to send for someone with this massive platform. I've been off due, but y'all go ahead labeling his foolishness as genius.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that's what the discourse was, because I'm sure no one labeled wearing a White Lives Matter shirt as genius, and also no one is like looking at this as him making some sort of like actual real. I mean, yeah, like if he's trolling, I guess the part where I'm missing on her is the dangerous. I'm really missing it. I can't lie.
Then this tweet from Buzz Patterson goes into the white fragility of the manufactured oppression that they have. So you're saying white lives don't matter? Just want you on the record here.
And see, like, it's like, is that dangerous or is that just like annoying? I wonder. I don't know. Maybe it's both, but it's definitely pretty dumb. Can't lie.
Oh man, that reminded me of a whole nother thing that I completely forgot about working into the show, but I think I still will. The Herschel Walker.
Oh, perfect.
I was like, I knew I forgot something, but yeah, I gotta get that Herschel Walker segment in. But let's continue on. I know that there's another one of those right-wing reactionary check marks that had a pretty big response. I think it was Matt Walsh. If I can find it. And while I take the time to find it, what do you think overall about Jemele Hill's political takes?
Yeah, so speaking of like, she's like, oh, I've been off Kanye. I've been off Jemele Hill for a long time. I mean, like maybe since like she first like came into the scene in like Sports Center, because it's just run of the mill, like really run of the mill Barack Obama, like just straight up liberal, and it's too much for me. I just don't. And then like they think they're actually the geniuses, That's like the other part of it. It's like, but all you do is regurgitate just nonsense. So no, I'm definitely not with Jemele Hill. She reminds me of like, I always get bothered by people. Well, not bothered, but like just people like her. There's Ava DuVernay. There's a couple others who are just incredibly weird whenever it comes to this talking about this. Like this is just a really weird tweet,
Yeah, definitely with you on that point. And also, like her political analysis is very lazy and doesn't really like go beyond like basic surface level when she has the apparent belief, a lot like a John Legend, that these elections aren't rigged in one way or another.
Which I thought has been proven, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, who knows?
So now it's I completely forgot about this until just a minute ago, but I did want this to be on the show, as you just moved from this state where Herschel Walker is trying to beat Reverend Warnock for his Senate seat. So, and there was an interesting development over the past couple of days where his son Christian is now potentially making it harder for Herschel to come through and trying to win that seat. So, as someone who was in Georgia during the time where Joe Biden said that there'd be $2,000 checks when if they got both Democratic senators in, how did a lot of the people in Georgia feel about that?
It's funny. I always talk about the kind of on the ground political feel because I lived downtown, and like if there was a protest, it was on my street. If there was a gathering of just people talking about whatever, it was on my street. So people are really not into the Democratic establishment, obviously because they haven't really had a connection for a long time at all. What was it, just this past election cycle that Democrats won Georgia. There was just like such a stagnant feel within at least Atlanta, and even some outer parts whenever I was there in terms of the political feeling towards we did something with getting these Democrats in. Of course, it started like you said immediately with the fact that they didn't deliver on the checks they said they were, so that was a great start in terms of like this is going to be Georgia's legacy, and they're still trying to push Stacey Abrams. I don't see it. I don't think that the activists on the ground see it, and there's always been a huge disconnect, specifically there of like you're trying to get governors, and you got some Senate candidates because you were running a presidential race at the same time against Donald Trump, but you're trying to get governors and Senate candidates in these states that aren't historical Democrat grounds, and you're not like doing something for them, at the very least. So I don't see them. I don't see them losing to Herschel Walker, which we'll get into because of just everything about him. But yeah.
Oh, one more question before we do get into that. What do you think of people who try to discard like the activists who try to work on certain political campaigns? Because, like, for example, with Ilhan Omar, actually isn't winning as comfortably in like her re-election as she should because of the fact that she's going along with the U.S. on Somalia, when she should be like, that should be like her pet issue, where she gets to be against the everyone else on.
Yeah, especially when her constituents are from the country that you're talking against. So yeah, she and a lot of these kind of like situations, I'm for, like we were just talking earlier about how activists becoming politicians is not really my thing, but I definitely understand and have participated in political campaigns. I worked with the Bernie team in 2020, despite having many conflicts with the agenda and everything else. But the disconnect is really, it's not coming from the streets. It's coming from the politicians who are going to side with their broader party on things that their constituents just know are wrong. So you would think that, like you said, someone in her position, that this would just be too easy, kind of a swing. If you want, especially if you want to just be comfortable in your race, which maybe she doesn't. That's kind of the thing too. Like, does she feel the pressure, at all? Even though being such a young congresswoman, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not too keen on any of the squad at this point. But if they don't lose to moderates, I'm not mad at it.
So imagine if you were as a big of a count as like Nick Cruz of Revolutionary Blackout Network, and someone who also worked with the Bernie Sanders campaign, and all the liberals who are melting down over him now being much more critical of Bernie Sanders after working on to help get him elected as well.
You would think the people who put in the work, because I mean, a lot of the keyboard activists are keyboard activists, and there's ways to be that positively, and there's ways to be it negatively, and so yeah, you would think at this point that we could critique a guy who has been in Congress for like 40 years. I don't know. You would think. I'm sure he has some wrong opinions. I'm sure.
Yeah, and we know that like that Bernie Sanders example real quick is he has a ton of like bad like votes in terms of like foreign policy, even voted in favor of the 94 crime bill.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. Like 40 years, the sheer amount of dirt that's, and there's probably lots of stuff that we don't know. That's even wild for. Like, I know I learned that he was a part of the small kind of committee working to get Sada Shakur locked up whenever she was running out to Cuba. So he just, he has he has an interesting legacy for sure.
And things like that are examples of why, even though he did manage to get the majority of like the millennial and Gen Z black support, that just being even better on like things like reparations could have led to him breaking through like older generations.
And the thing is too, like, people don't realize, obviously there's going to be the Joe Biden and Barack Obama, like, I'm not even, just no illusions, right? But that's why you have to just like lean into what is really, going to work. And so, yeah, I completely agree. That would have changed it a lot. Now this, I am excited to see. I have only heard about this, but I'm excited to see it.
So this is Christian Walker going into a little tweet thread, which is gonna definitely not help his father's run for Senate. I know my mom, and I would really appreciate if my father, Herschel Walker, stopped lying and making a mockery of us. You're not a family man when you left us to bang a bunch of women, threatened to kill us, and had us move over 6 times in 6 months, running from your violence. I don't care about someone who has had a bad past and takes accountability, but how dare you lie and act as though you're some moral Christian upright man. You've lived a life of destroying other people's lives. How dare you? This stuff definitely doesn't feel like real life. Moments like these feel like they come out of movies.
Yeah, and the worst part is like, or just the wildest part of the whole thing is just it's coming from Christian Walker, and it just shows you how like these people will say and do virtually anything until there's a situation that affects them, and like, wait, let's stop being bad people for a second, because if he wasn't his dad, he wouldn't care. That's the wildest part. But yeah, it's well, once again, I can't imagine him winning, but I don't want to sound like the libs when Trump won, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. When you talk about the voting base of uh, the Republicans, and it really has to be uh, extremely flagrantly bad in order for them to abandon ship. And even in spite of this, I don't think he's really going to lose all that many people when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I I think you're right. Who was it? Madison Cawthorn or whatever his name is recently? Was he the only person who like? And I think that was just because they think he's gay, and so they're like, oh, you can go. But that's like one of the few offenses. They're like, okay, yeah, that's too far. So yeah, I agree with you for sure.
So this all stems from uh, the report coming out a couple days ago that Herschel Walker supposedly had a woman get an abortion when he's running as someone who is one of the conservatives in favor of the national abortion ban.
Once again, it's a perfect. I mean, it shows you who he raised because it's a perfect example of as long as it's not happening to them, they're perfectly fine with it. Oh, you can be forced to have a child. Me, I'm gonna go ahead and pay for that though. Oh.
It usually doesn't like come out as obviously from a conservative with the rules for the, but not for me. I tend to think liberals don't hide that as well, but this right here is one of those moments where it's only if it does add a bit of extra energy to like people who were on the fence of who they were voting for, they may start to lean a bit towards Warnock, even though they're still disappointed with him at the same time.
Yeah. And it's true. They really do vote way more on issues than they vote on people. So.
Oh, then let's just go through the clip of this.
So it's been a tornado over the last 48 hours. I watched you with Sean the other night. This, according to the Daily Beast, you know this woman, even though her identity is not known. Have you figured out who it is?
Not at all. And that's what I hope everyone can see. It's sort of like everyone is anonymous, everyone is leaking, and they want you to confess to something you have no clue about, but it just shows how desperate they are right now. They see me as a big threat, and I know that. And I knew it when I got into this race, but they don't realize that I think they came for the wrong one. They energize me. They energize me because I know how they really want to try to keep this seat. And if I let them keep this seat, that means we're going to have high taxes. That means that this border is going to stay wide open. That means we're going to have crime on the street. Well, that's the reason I came. We can't do that.
And you could honestly say
they've energized me to get out and fight.
Before we react more deeply into this clip, I gotta say one of the most like annoying things that the Republicans do is like act like they're suddenly better on crime when they're always gonna have that little talking point to hang over just because of the fact that in big cities, Republicans rarely ever win like the mayor or the city leadership positions that would be influential on determining whether they could do things to address crime or not.
And that just shows you people would rather live in a supposed crimeopolis than under Republican rule. People who have minds and go to cities. Just kidding.
But then, with the arrogance that Herschel had in this little clip, which, by the way, Kelly, no, he does not have any previous experience. WCSN, how much did Walker get from those stimulus dollars? Brett wanted me to ask. And for those who don't know, that's Brett Favre, by the way, who wants to continue to funnel welfare money into making his daughter's volleyball court and football fields better. But I think that arrogance from Herschel is like the same type of arrogance that you get when somebody trades you a whole draft class of picks in order to get you. And the sad part is the two teams that who have traded their entire years of draft picks for a running back, the teams who got all the picks, by the way, did not really make much of that.
Oh, man. Herschel Walker.
Although, just a surprising moment where you see a family come out against it. Just since it normally just happens quietly and it doesn't really blow up beyond Twitter.
With a tweet.
Yeah, kind of I think Kellyanne Conway's daughter. I remember there was one moment where she had a couple tweets that were against disagreeing with her parents' politics.
Yeah. And that was different too, because at that point it was is she a hostage? Because that's a child. It was definitely much more concerning. I was like, all right, this is weird.
And speaking of family of politicians, I learned that Christine Pelosi, Nancy's daughter, blocked me on Twitter.
Wow.
I don't have a very deep block list because I'm not someone who's constantly being a major reply guy, but that was one of the few blocks
I have so many weird ones where I'm just oh, okay, you just really were bothered that day. All right. So yeah, I'm with you. That's wild.
I mean, another one I got was I got blocked by TYT.
That one, you sounds lucky, honestly. I would love to never see TYT content anywhere.
That Chris Evans guy, a big shitlib account.
I have no idea, which is also a blessing.
Then the big one that tells you whether you're really part of the actual basic thing that says whether you're part of the actual left or not is whether you get blocked by Jeff Campbell, Jeff Miami.
Probably, what's so funny is there's so many people. When people tell me this type of stuff, I'm I go check them. Yeah, I'm blocked. You're right. So I probably have the same list as you because they they hate dissension, scared of it.
And yeah, people like the G Hive, for example,
are
just cowards who attack you through behind a block, especially for the people who are more vocal on there.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last segment of the night, a couple of days ago, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar decided to go in on Kyrie Irving in his Substack article. So I think it's good moment to go over the substance of his criticisms of Kyrie Irving. As Kyrie has, by the way, been in like a big target of criticism ever since he was one of the more vocal athletes coming out against the idea of vaccine mandates. So this section of his article started from the fact that Kyrie posted on Instagram a 2002 video clip of Alex Jones expressing a conspiracy theory regarding a new world order out to profit on our misery. But before we get into continuing on, did you notice that on Kyrie Irving's Instagram?
I saw that. I saw the reaction to it, and thus went to go look. And I was like, "Yep, that's Alex Jones on Kyrie's Instagram." All right, cool. It was like a similar reaction to the Kanye thing.
So, does the idea of this whole new world order sound as crazy as it used to like 20 years ago?
You know what's funny is I never ever like delved into the idea really. Like I don't even like when people say New World Order, I think of like 50 different things.
Because I do notice that there are like a few voices on the left who, by the way, can talk about stuff and frame it from more of like a left perspective, like Steve Poikonen, Pasta Jardula can do this a bit, and someone who's become more and more polarizing, by the way, is Jackson Hinkle. Especially getting behind the whole MAGA communism thing.
Oh, that's a good one. Can't wait to see what their apparel looks like.
But let's move on down to his take. There's some irony in this news item coming right after the previous one about the miseducation of American youth, because Kyrie's thought process is an example of what happens when the education system fails. So when you think about the way a liberal describes the way education system fails versus the way someone on the left describes it, and we know that Kareem by and large is pretty much falls in line with the typical liberal politics. What do you think are examples of the way the education system fails and how it applies to Kyrie Irving?
Well, first, I think I know exactly what you mean in terms of the idea that if the education system does not produce the exact same thought within everyone's brain about every single thing, that that person, they were a failure. Yeah, I definitely don't consider Kyrie. I mean, also the wider part is that Kyrie also was not raised in like the American education system. Like he was tutored at a young age, and then he grew up in Australia, and then he came back to high school to America. So that's the other, like, it's like, oh, you want to do some research, Kareem, for like 3 seconds and just see, not even halfway true. So yeah, I don't, definitely we can get into the American, education of youth and how it fails people. And it fails people in ways of, independent thought, not in the way of, oh, Kyrie must think like I think.
Yeah, because I noticed the first point that people turned on him was the moment that he revealed he's a flat earther, and there's still some rad libs who get hung up on that, especially when you see some of the other stances that he's taken, good ones like Palestine, for example.
I will come on this show right here, right now, and let everyone know I am indeed a flat earther. Okay. And the reason why is because if you can't prove it to me, it doesn't exist. And that's it. So yeah, I'm always hilariously interested in the actual people who are enraged in this idea that someone can be a flat earther. It's specifically Kyrie, whenever it's like, it could not matter less what Kyrie thinks to me about the planet.
And the way I see it is a lot like the way of like some of these wedge issues that get used to divide people. Like the flat Earth stuff is not one of the pressing issues that we have at hand right now. Your view on that? It's the fact that we've got a government in place who is trying to like destroy the rights of people in several different ways.
They've been doing that since they've wrote the Constitution. They're like, all right, well, this is a little too much. Let's cut it on down. We already didn't include a bunch of people. We got to cut it down, and they've been doing it ever since. So, not a surprise at this point, tragically.
And there's certain groups of people who felt like they have a pretty good sense of rights who are seeing them suddenly getting weakened.
Mm-hmm.
Last October, I wrote a piece about Kyrie Irving's refusal to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Should we leave Kyrie alone? And why this reckless choice was destructive to the country and especially the black community, where he would be an influential role model. The facts prove that the accusation to be true. Irving didn't care. He continued to promote his anti-vax sentiments regardless of the cost of lives and health to others, proclaiming himself a martyr. Not kidding. And that's quite a muddied area, as we know, because a lot of the left kind of just left him to get out to defend himself on that.
Oh, for sure.
When I also think Kyrie didn't like make the point clear enough about being the possible, how it's possible to have like a anti-mandate view from the left.
Yeah, it's wild because this just reminds me. I don't know if you saw it, but I think it was today where LeBron said he doesn't have a relationship with Kareem, and Kareem, and you kind of alluded to it. He's always like, even if you just go back and look at things that he was kind of like applauded for as being some sort of revolutionary and activist, he's always been, if at most, slightly leaning to the left just a little bit. Like not even he's really just kind of cut and dry liberal, if you ask me. And he's always had a problem with these guys in the NBA, whether it be Kyrie, LeBron, whoever, who aren't just going to go up there and, put out the nice packaged, this is what we're supposed to think. And yeah, that's it. Because just like we talked about in the beginning, when he talks about the education system failing, he just thinks that, whatever he thinks is supposed to be it. I'm against it. And I never would have thought I would have been against Kareem in the way I am, but I'm not really a fan.
So you would feel like he's like one of the like figures from the black community who is there to try to tone police them when someone feels that they fall out of line.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like how we're talking about politicians and how activists become politicians. In order to kind of get the legacy role, I mean, shoot, Angela Davis, like anyone who really has kind of that legacy of activist turn, major or household name celebrity, that's kind of their job, It's all right. So I'm gonna make sure the younger generations just go up to my line, and maybe I'm gonna push you even a little bit further, and that's about it. So I think you hit the nail on the head for sure.
So I know in the past couple of weeks, like Kyrie Irving had been on tweeted that it was like the mandates were one of the biggest like human rights abuses in history, and you could tell the people who cling to the idea of it really were upset with him for making that statement, even though we could say that there were a few other things that ended up being worse than how it got executed here. So what were your thoughts when he made that tweet?
It's so funny. This whole lineup of the show is hilarious to me because it's just like Kanye again, where I saw it and I was like, all right, that's Kyrie. Kyrie's going to tweet about whatever he wants to tweet about. But I definitely disagreed when I saw the tweet, right? Like that was my first reaction. Of course, I'm, like any other person, I'm going to have an emotional reaction. Oh, I disagree. And then I was like, okay, along the lines of kind of the other stuff, like this is at most for me a chuckle, and I get what he's kind of getting at. And besides that, it just wasn't anything worth railing over. But he knows too when he tweets that, he's like, oh yeah, they're gonna love this one, and so he knows that it's gonna be a whole big thing. But he's kind of the only person, at least in his view, putting out his viewpoint. So I get why you would speak.
Yeah, and also have to say that the main people who feel like it's one of the biggest rights of humans abuses were also people who don't really think of like how bad like slavery or the Holocaust was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or
that's like that. Yeah,
prisoners of the recent moment.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
We might have just left him alone to stew in his own gelatinous ignorance. Rich and famous people get away with saying dumb things all the time because their money isolates them from consequences. They surround themselves with yes people whose job is to confirm whatever harebrained ideas they have. Yes, sir, Mr. Irving. The earth has never been flatter. But I feel like Kareem kind of like tells on himself a bit because isn't he one of those yes people who reaffirm like whatever type of ideas like the liberals have?
See, I feel like it's more so that he surrounds himself with people who have been patting him on the back for his barely, worth something kind of activism. That's what I think he's like you said, he's telling himself because he's revealing, oh yeah, I'm also surrounding myself with people that just tell me, oh yeah, Mr. Jabbar, like, everything's great in this country, So yeah, I'm definitely with you that he's definitely having a little Freudian slip there.
But now Irving is back and more destructive, insensitive, and just plain silly than before. He decided it would be a good idea to post a 2002 video clip from InfoWars founder Alex Jones. Yeah, the guy who has been on trial for denying the Sandy Hook shootings and who previously admitted in open court that he's a performer and his on-screen persona is just a character that bilks millions of dollars from unaware viewers. The main gist of the clip is a warning about a cabal of international leaders who are secretly releasing plagues on the world from which they can profit. And of course, who really profits from making this claim? Alex Jones is one of the most despicable human beings alive, and to associate with him means that you share his stench. So the irony here is like with the way like the world is coalescing right now, especially like NATO, is this stuff really as far-fetched as Cream tries to make it sound?
Okay, so we were talking earlier about the idea of like NWO, right? And if you're talking about it from like that kind of perspective of, yeah, a whole bunch of incredibly rich people are running these countries and they happen to be coalescing and trying to like, take over the rest of the world, which they've been trying to do forever. Oh yeah, that's most definitely happening. And I think the humongous irony, I thought you were going to say this is the irony, is that we were just talking about how Kyrie kind of, was overdoing it with his, or maybe not overdoing it, but, from his perspective, saying how this is one of the worst human rights violations ever. And then you get to Alex Jones is one of the most despicable human beings alive. And yeah, okay. I'm sure there's someone right now doing something way worse than he's ever done his entire life who's just going to, go to work tomorrow. So,
yeah, for example, all the war criminals that we have that are going to live well past their life expectancy while we've got people in this country who are hurting due to all the money that they're sending to Ukraine that could be used to help people here, and the piss poor responses that Biden has had to multiple hurricanes such as Ian and the one that recently went through Puerto Rico.
Yeah, the list is ridiculous. Exactly. The list is ridiculous.
Kyrie Irving would be dismissed as a comical buffoon if it weren't for his influence over young people who look up to athletes. When I look up to athletes who have used their status to actually improve society, Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe, and more, it becomes clear how much Irving has tarnished the reputations of all athletes who strive to be seen as more than dumb jocks. But that statement to me is an example of ignoring how the things that Kyrie has done.
Yeah, which is I mean, some of those other people, like even LeBron, done good things, but like the kind of like different commitment level that Kyrie's shown towards bettering any community that he's involved with is kind of insane. So you think that would have some recognition, and that I feel like the saying that they're being seen as dumb jocks is kind of ignoring like that's gonna happen anyways. I think Kyrie can go ahead and have any thought process he wants. There are going to be people that on either side of whatever issue that are going to think he's a dumb jock just because he's an athlete. So that's not. It doesn't matter what he says. People think that of LeBron, of Colin Kaepernick, of Muhammad Ali. Like so I don't get it. But that's Kareem's old guy.
Yeah, I believe that he has actually tried to do things to improve the conditions of the indigenous community here. That's, I think, one of his big things that he's tried to do outside of basketball. Irving does not seem to have the capacity to change, but we have the capacity to keep fighting against his brand of destructive behavior. One way to do that, beyond shaking our heads in nasty tweets, is to write to his sponsors and tell them to drop Irving, or you will drop them. Nike has likely decided to not to renew his contract past this season, but he is still sponsored by Pepsi and 2K Sports. Don't feel bad for Irving. His career earnings at the end of the 2022-23 season will be $230 million. That buys a lot of yes people. So how does that last paragraph come off to you?
I don't know if you've noticed it in basketball specifically, but the farther you go back in the generations, the more angry they are that they don't have the same amount of money as guys today. Like they are just constantly talking about how much money these guys are making, and it appears to bother them incredibly. And I get it. Kareem was probably more impactful to basketball than Kyrie Irving, and never going to see anything close to 230. But like we said earlier, the yes people line is ridiculous. It's all celebrities, especially someone who's as revered as Kareem, is going to have that.
So then you've also have the whole idea that back to the point you made that these older players being upset is that there's guys who are going to barely that are going to play very sporadically that are earning 8 figures towards the end of an NBA bench.
Yeah.
And that could be more than what their career earnings were back when they played.
Yeah, so the saltiness makes sense. It is just, though, hilarious because it always comes up.
So, do you think Kyrie Irving is someone that could be seen in a better light if, for example, someone from this independent media space was able to get him to engage more with the space?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a big help because there's definitely people that, despite all of the media kind of and the historical people like Kareem and everyone else, doctors, etc., who have come out against Kyrie. Kyrie still has a humongous fan base. And if you just know basketball, he's kind of too good to really ignore if he's on the court. So I feel like if he were to enter the space, he could have a pretty like the word I want to use is dominant because it's true. Like I feel like he'd be a pretty big figure almost immediately. But I don't. Yeah, I guess he's probably never considered it because you would think that he'd be in it then. I know he does like Twitch and stuff for gaming, but one step extra, he'd be doing something.
Yeah, and I think the only person I've really seen him collaborate with is Linda Sarsour. I remember that they had an Instagram live together.
And
I think
like you said, that's a lot for Kyrie.
Kelly's got a quick question for you. Are the Wildcats going to beat South Carolina this weekend?
Of course, I am actually way more of a basketball fan, and there's lots of basketball, football beef right now in Kentucky. But if both teams are good, it's perfectly fine with me. So yes, they are. They're going to win every single game.
So, are you more of a college football person than someone like me?
Are you big? I don't think I'm too big in college. No, okay. So yeah, then I guess I used to be like really big in college football. And so like, I used to be big in football period in all sports really. And so when you kind of have that, you kind of just have like, lingering history and stuff like that and lingering allegiances and resentments. So yeah, for sure.
And going back to that whole question with whether it be someone who's in this space who has the ability to like get Kyrie like to engage more in like more issues. That way he's not just viewed as some right-wing anti-vaxxer. And I think like among the few people with most of the people in this space with the big platforms wouldn't even bother with it. Like the people involved in the Breaking Points conglomerate, the Hill, those TYT, those people, anyone affiliated in that space would not be having anything to do with trying to get Kyrie Irving on their show.
And at best, they would just position him as the opposition, as this evil, crazy far right guy's coming on our show. Let's grill him, and it would be obviously horrible because Kyrie would never sit through that.
Yeah, so that leaves a limited amount of people who may potentially be able to get Kyrie on, like Russell Brand, Jimmy Dore, Brianna Joy Gray. So that's a pretty small group of people who could legitimately have a chance to even get Kyrie Irving to be on their platform.
Yeah, and honestly, they should pursue it because I think, like I said, he'd be dominant in the space.
Yeah, and if like Justin Jackson ever gets back into doing this type of content again, because I noticed that he stopped.
Yeah.
Once he got into football last season.
That's a good point. I forgot. It's funny that you say that he stopped because I totally forgot that he was making some waves for a second.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Justin Jackson. That injury to DeAndre Swift allowed him enough opportunity to get on the field and score a touchdown on Sunday. Since the Detroit Lions have that impressive thing going on right now where they're the number one offense and the 32nd defense.
Sounds like the Kings this year. Come on.
And I think it would honestly be more impressive if the Lions managed to pull that off. Because if you do it like with a 5-12 record, I think maintaining those marks is more impressive than if you did it with like that 14-2, 15-1 record that the 2000 Rams had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Because it's like you really were committed to one side.
Good question, Kelly, because Joe Rogan is another person with the platform that would have the ability to get Kyrie Irving on his show. I mean, he recently got Aaron Rodgers on.
I don't know how we didn't immediately go to Joe Rogan.
That's because of the fact that I think we just started with people that are viewed as more left as ideas, but not like so much shifting more to the right.
Yeah, that's a big shift.
So now we're about to the end of the show. Is there one more question that I'll ask? I remember on draft night, you were pretty disappointed that the Kings did not take Jaden Ivey and ended up with Keegan Murray. How do you feel now?
I'm feeling pretty good. Keegan looks pretty nice. It's kind of crazy. He's still like 23 years old, which is like 1 year younger than De'Aaron Fox. So it's rough, but he looks pretty nice.
Because I know that when I reacted to that, like, well, Ivy's a pretty safe pick, but if Murray pans out, he's going to have the higher ceiling and he'll fill a bit more of a need for the Kings as well, because they don't have like true small forward sized players outside of Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes is our only wing, and he's still struggling to move. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Keegan, I like him.
So, good question from W. Do you have an answer to this one?
My absolute guess is Notre Dame. That's my absolute. This is completely a guess. I have absolutely no idea. I can't even tell you who RYU is.
Yes, I'm not sure either, but it does sound like...
is it BYU, maybe? I don't know what the letters are. But yeah.
Yeah, either way, I would still lean towards Notre Dame, even though they're having a down season. Oh, yeah, it was BYU.
Okay, yep, see.
You know, now that you say it's BYU, I think I'll switch it up, and I would pick them to cover.
Yeah.
So, Nyree, do you have anything to... Oh, wait. I got to make an announcement before I go into closing things out. So, a show announcement real quick. On Saturday, I'll be at the state capitol providing a live stream of this Free Assange rally that is taking place in downtown Denver. Featured speakers include Kyle Anzalone from Anti-War Com and David Barsamin from Alt Radio, a couple of the featured speakers here. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty heavy libertarian turnout. But I haven't had an opportunity to do this much since the start of the channel, and this will be the second thing that I'll be able to provide a live stream on. So, what do you think of these upcoming Free Assange events, Nyree?
I haven't. It's so wild. I am familiar, of course, with Assange and the story and the progression of everything that's going on, but I haven't really seen much of the rallies. So, we're looking nationwide, worldwide? Like, is this? Are we just?
Yeah, there's 4 big cities where these are. There's like 4 big cities in the United States where these are taking place. Others include DC, which I'm about to pull up the promotion for that real quick. And yes, here it is from Comrade Misty, the photo of some of the featured speakers at the DC event, including Eliza Blue, James Bovard, Reverend Annie Chambers, Ben Cohen, Marsha Coleman Adebayo, Randy Credico, David DeCamp, Stephen Donziger, Chip Gibbons, Kevin Gostola, Chris Hedges, John Kiriakou, Joe Loria, Garland Nixon, Sabby Sabs, and Jill Stein.
Stacked group.
Yeah, that's going to be the most stacked of the 4 events here in the U.S., but it was a good moment to. I had to make sure to promote that because also I should be able to also do the live stream of the Denver Assange event on a bigger channel than this, so that'll help get it more exposure as well.
Nice.
Yes, Kelly, I will definitely be on the lookout for the provocateurs if there are any. The other time that I was on the ground doing a live stream was the March for Medicare for All when the 56th city event was last July. I did do a live stream for that.
Mm-hmm.
And hope for more opportunities for that to come up in the future. But now we are to the point. And do you got anything to plug on your way out, Nyree?
Nothing to plug, but if anything comes up, check me out at Dark Yagami right there on Twitter, 2_, and hang out. I always tweeting stuff, nonsense.
And also, I've got his YouTube channel in the description below, so y'all should click the subscribe button to that in case he ever does decide to make this a thing for him to do as well.
One of these days.
And lastly, for me, please go to the my link tree in the description below. Click on the make sure you're subscribed to me on multiple platforms. Don't forget to like and share the stream if you missed that at the beginning of the show. Thanks for joining in on the chat tonight, Kelly, and love to you and your family as well. Kelly, WCSN, Uncle Warren, among the committed regulars in the chat that I have. And yes, my plans are to make sure to have another guest for next Wednesday's show. So with that being said, for Nyree Holmes here, this is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night, and see y'all on the ground for Free Assange on Saturday.